Hey, Doug.
Hey, Dean, how are you?
Good, thank you. Welcome to episode 24. Doug, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I'm going to have George do the same, and then we're going to drop you guys into the craziest hypothetical day you've ever had.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Doug Rich. I lead Rich Consulting Group. So my history is I'm a Chief Revenue Officer, CRO. So mainly a lot of startups or seed to B round organizations. So worked at big companies like Veritas. So I think I was the first person in Europe for Veritas, and now a $1 billion company. And but the fun for me is in smaller companies. So now I help seed get to A and A get to B round and beyond.
All right. George, hi. Nice to have you.
Hello, nice to be here, Tim. About me, right? So
Yes, sir.
I am in sales and marketing operations for the last 23 years, 11 of which 12 now spent in B2B SaaS, anywhere from startups to scale-ups. Currently, I am the CRO of a Finnish MarTech ABM platform called Enrich.
Okay.
And that's all for now, I think.
Okay, so let's start. We're going to walk you guys through a very unusual and busy hypothetical single day for you. And we're going to start with Doug. You've just walked in to your first ever day on a Monday in the morning with a brand new client, brand new engagement, okay, or a brand new employer, depending on your sometimes people are fractional, sometimes they're full time, sometimes they go back and forth. So anyway, first time with this company. What's the dream scenario you would be walking into as a brand new CRO there, and what's the nightmare scenario you could be walking into?
Yeah, sure. So I guess with the role of Chief Revenue Officer today, there's not a lot of times there is not much of a dream scenario because you're in there because there's a problem. The previous CROs left. There's like a 17-month tenure on a CRO right now, and it's shrinking. That was the stats before COVID. So I think since then it's got worse. So it's really hard. And honestly, you probably don't want it to be too perfect when you come in because you want to make your impact. But I guess the dream scenario for me would be a coachable team, right? A lot of organizations, when they do the job description, either it's fractional or full-time, they might think they want something, but what they actually need isn't what they want. So they think, oh, I want a CRO, I want to do this, and we're going to pivot or whatever the buzzword is, and they're not doing it. So I guess the key things for me is a coachable team, willing to learn and willing to collaborate. And I put those two things really closely together. You can't learn in isolation. And these roles that we do, we're gluing sales, marketing, and CS together, and definitely working with product, depending on the stage of your company as well. So I'm looking for a really coachable team. If I can get that, that's really good. If they've got a defined ICP, i.e. customer, they've got a focus, ideal customer profile, then that's a dream, right? So this is my dream scenario. They're focused on one thing. And I guess I'm talking about seed and seed and A and B round companies. So there's a dream. They've got a focused ICP. They know exactly what they're doing. They're they're one utensil. They're a knife or a fork or a screwdriver. They're not trying to be a Swiss Army knife in a young company. That's where there's problems, when you're trying to do 20 things and you say yes to everything. So I'm looking for that. Maybe they've got to go to market cadence. Maybe they know they've got a playbook. Is the CRO, do they value that role? Do they see sales and marketing separately? Do they see that there's a benefit gluing everything together? Here's another one, coachable founder. Okay, those two words can exist together really well. I work with some brilliant founders who sound strange as they're the leader of the organization, but the best ones are coachable. Sometimes I've seen two types of founder, a technical one and a sort of more commercial one. The technical one may be saying, look, Doug, it's a black art. We don't understand what you guys do. So it's your world, right? You've done this before. Tell us what you're doing. Get collaboration, get involvement, but let us what you're doing. And the commercial organization's values understood as well. So those are my dream scenarios.
What's the nightmare?
Okay, so and it's funny, I was thinking about this, I guess it's difficult to say a nightmare because you wouldn't be there if they didn't have big problems, right? I guess the nightmare for me is founder might still be in every single transaction. He's talking to every single customer. Maybe it's a commercial founder, which are also great, but they've just probably the normal scenario you walk into, they've just had a funding round. So you walk in day one and they've just got a ton of money and you've just been hired because they think they've nailed it and you're just there to throw bodies at it. You're scaling sales, you're scaling marketing, you're scaling CS. And then you get under the covers and you realize that was one of the justifications for the funding round. Yeah. But then you get there and there's no focused ICP. You've got no initial, ideal customer sort of profile where they're going after 30 types of customers. So the other thing to look at, and I've actually been on a call my first day at the company, and the CEO said, "Oh, Doug, we've got a call with the VCs this afternoon. Just thought you could jump on it with us and explain, how you're going to take us to $1 gazillion in the next funding round." And so that was a tricky call. But so nightmare scenario is, the funding round's just happened, but it's been justified for the wrong reasons, or you come in with a low expectation. Is there churn? So you suddenly look at the product and you realize the churn's much higher than it is, which probably means they haven't got their ideal profile. And a year later, it's all coming home to roost. Customers aren't renewing because CS can't keep things going. You're hiring lots of bodies. There's a lack of confidence. So maybe they're not that confident. You see them not wanting to make mistakes or try new things. So one of the things I've always done is give people enough room to try different things. Right. And saying, look, it doesn't matter if they don't work out. I would guess one of the biggest things is the nightmare is, how many CROs have you had in the last 17 months? Okay, and I walked into one where I was the third one in within 2 years. So that can be a real challenge. So I think those, maybe there's an uneven sales team. There's one seller and they've got all the accounts, but they've been giving them all the deals because they're the only ones who close the deals, but everybody else is unhappy, everybody else is starving, and so then you get some issues there.
All right. George, how about you? What's the dream scenario and nightmare scenario when you walk into a brand new company?
Right. So I would say the dream scenario is where you sit in the first meeting as a CRO with the CEO of the company and all the department heads. So everything that belongs into the revenue organization, either it exists at that point or not. So CS, sales, biz dev, RevOps, and then the rest of the management team. So product, marketing, engineering, support, etc. Ideally, in a dream scenario, right. There is a framework, or there is at least an idea of what each department needs from the role, from the CRO role, or they have a clear picture of what the challenges or aspirations per department are. Because for me, historically, it has been a lot easier to figure out internal revenue problems rather than external, so collaboration between departments. I think where the magic really happens is where the entire organization works almost like a conveyor belt, like a factory, where all departments work together. So having a room with everyone present, and the dream within the dream scenario would be that everyone has already the willingness and an idea on how to collaborate. Right. So that would be the dream scenario. The nightmare scenario is getting into a room with the founder, people arriving gradually with varying senses of urgency and problem understanding. I have a big pet peeve when it comes to punctuality, when it comes to urgency. So having counterparts, especially like sales leaders, that don't share the same urgency is both problematic and also kind of hard to shift that type of culture if it predates you. Again, A lot easier to fix your own department, harder to fix urgency within marketing, as an example,
Right.
if it's not there.
Okay, so Doug, like we said, hypothetical, busy date. So you're leaving these guys now because you have to go down to downtown. You have to go to city center. There's a convention happening, conference at a big hotel. You're one of the speakers, so you need to get on stage. So you get on stage. Everyone in the audience, 250 people there, everyone in the audience has come up through the ranks, but they're starting their first ever CRO role tomorrow. So, like, you're the expert, obviously, because you've been doing it. They're just about to start doing it. As you're talking to the audience, I'm going to give you guys like the beginning of a thought, and you just finish it for that audience. Okay. So the first one is, if you're about to walk into your first ever CRO role, you're going to be surprised by what? Take as long as you need.
That your role isn't being the super seller, teaching people how to fish, because that absolutely won't scale. Your role is to build confidence within your team so that they feel they can go off and do things. So give them a lot of confidence, but also collaborate. It's critical that interlock with marketing and CS, that they're one team, there's no blame culture, and with product and in other parts of the organization. So your role is to explain the commercial engine, and to interlock between all of those different between all those different organizations, and build confidence in a not unrealistic way. But your role is to say, look, we can go and take that hill. Your largest transaction in a SaaS company might have been 100K. Let's see how we can have a 500K transaction. So it's that role of interlock between all the different departments, building appropriate confidence.
All right, excellent. And George, let's do the same scenario. You're on stage now. You're talking to an audience, a couple of hundred people. They've come up through the ranks. They're going to be starting their first ever CRO role or engagement, if they're fractional, right, tomorrow. And you're talking to them. So just finish the thought for me. What you folks are going to be most surprised by walking into a CRO role is what?
Is the sheer amount of math that is involved in the role. The sheer amount of math and calculation, possible results, forecasting, and building models, almost scientific models, in order to scale an organization. Going into sales leadership, especially on a CRO level, is for me the brink where sales stops being an art and starts being completely forms into a science when it comes to scaling an organization, building a predictable revenue machine.
Right.
So what I was genuinely surprised is the sheer amount of research, formulas, and math that is involved in this role, if you are to do it successfully.
That's an excellent answer. I've never heard that one before. Okay, so Doug, here's the next of the two thoughts we're going to go over. So as you're talking to this audience of soon to be CROs, just finish this thought for me. What you're going to find is that most companies don't understand what?
So most companies don't understand that the role of the CRO is also managing the board, okay, in an incredible way. So making sure you set those expectation levels so you're ambitious, but you also have that realistic side to you. So most companies that you end up being engaged with don't understand that the CRO hasn't got these kind of superpowers to change things straight away. So you need a system, you need to put that science behind it as well. So they need to look at it like an engineering problem. So there's that mix of science and art. So one of the things I've done is, in my first kind of couple of weeks at an organization, is on an all hands call, explain how a commercial organization works, explain how they're all linked together, how critical it is sales and marketing are together, and that there is some science behind it. The best way it was described to me is the CRO role and the role of the sales organization is like a quiz show and a talent show. So a quiz show, you can study for that exam. You can say, okay, we're going to look at 16th century French history. And if on the quiz show, the right questions come up, then you might do pretty well at the quiz. On the talent show, you might be a great singer, dancer, whatever, but you might not win that competition. And that's like a commercial organization. You need the quiz, you need the talent show, you need to have the answers to all the quiz. You need to put in systems from first part of marketing all the way to CS to renewing contracts, up running contracts. You need that system in place, like an engineering contract, but you need to also do the right things at each stage, whether it's in front of a customer or to another colleague within the organization. So it's explained that it's not just art and it's sales, and some salespeople are lucky, some marketing people are lucky, others aren't. It's absolutely not that. It's a science. There's a quiz show element, but then you need that talent show on top. You need the ability to do certain things that your competitors aren't.
Right. Excellent. And George, how about you? You're talking to this audience. They're about to start their first ever, CRO role, and you want to let them know, like, chances are, something you're going to be surprised by when you start this role is what?
You would be surprised how insignificant the role can potentially be, depending on how the organization functions. So there is very often, especially for people like myself coming through the sales ranks, right up to a CRO position, you feel that sales is the end-all, be-all result of a company's delivery, and that to a degree is true because it has to do with bottom line revenue at the end of the day. But an organization works a lot more like a factory or a machine, rather than it works through heroics or through only execution. So every KPI, everywhere from time to hire on HR to time to productivity within engineering and products to NRR at CS, sales velocity metrics in sales, all impact each other. And coming through the ranks, this is not as exposed, or it's not as understood for most salespeople. And it is something that is quite apparent when you lift your eyes a bit above on the strategic level and see how everything interlocks or everything impacts each other.
Right. Okay, so you guys, they finally managed to get you off stage. They thought you were a bit chatty, but some intern managed to get you off stage, and now you're going out onto the conference floor. There's booths, right? You got your ad hoc meetings. You're running into people you haven't seen in a while, that kind of stuff. And you're also talking to prospects. So people who are in the top of your own personal funnel, either as your next potential employer or next potential fractional client. And so, Doug, as you're talking to folks, prospects at sort of the top of your own funnel, what's something that companies tend to underrate about CRO, and what's or the role itself, or sales, and what's something that they overrate?
Okay, so I think what they overrate is in a CRO is that you're going to just do magic immediately. Okay, that you're going to come in. There might have been 2 other CROs before you that didn't do that magic, and you're going to come in and suddenly everything's going to change. It takes time, it takes systems, it takes measurement, whether it's marketing measurement, CS measurement, and having those on a regular basis. So buying yourself some time as a CRO is really, really important. So say, okay, we're going to hire these people, we're going to hire the right people. That's going to take 2 to 3 months. They're going to ramp, depending on what your sales cycle is and what your onboarding experience is. That's going to take you 2 to 3 to 6 months. Then you're going to see that impact. And in this kind of society we're into, where people want instant gratification, it's also a challenge when you're doing that. So I think they kind of overrate your ability to make a change immediately. Right? If you have a year or 2 years, that's the great thing. And what do they underrate? They definitely underrate building the systems, getting the the clarity, getting a regular cadence. Is there regular meetings? Is there sales meetings? Is there deep dives into projects and into large transactions or potential transactions? So, they haven't done that before, which is why you've turned up, right? Because they're not doing those things. Right. So, do they have a learning mindset? Are they prepared to do all of those things to get them to that big place? It's not for the faint-hearted. They're there because that's the reason. But maybe in the past, there's been easier routes that have given like a sugar kick. So, let's do this. That will work for a month. Let's do that. And it's kind of just kicked problems down the road. So they definitely underrate that. They definitely kind of don't realize what some of that role is that you as a CRO are doing, and what you're doing all day. Sometimes it doesn't look like you're doing much. A few years ago, my son was an intern at a SaaS company, and he met the CRO. After a week, I said, what do you think? What does the CRO do? He said, Dad, he just seems to be on the phone all day. I just don't understand what he does, right? Because he's walking the floors, he's looking confident. And I know it's quite amusing. That's probably the perception when you're walking around the office, that what does that guy do? Things seem to happen. They don't see what's going on underneath it. So I think that's what I see as overrated and underrated.
All right, excellent. And George, how about you? As you're, talking to your next prospective company or fractional client, what do these prospects tend to underrate about CROs that they're not giving enough weight to, or don't even know about, and what do they overrate that you really think is not that important?
Yes. So when it comes to underrating, I would say two things. One is cultural impact, both to the revenue organization in itself and to the organization at large. I think the best CROs I've ever worked with have huge cultural impact when it comes to motivation, when it comes to mentality, when it comes to ways of working, even leading to personal growth for the people that they work with. That's one. The second one, when it comes to underrating, has to do with commercial impact, personal commercial impact. I feel that, again, the role models that I've had are people that are very close to execution, that get their hands dirty. And yes, systems and processes take time to pay off, but networks and personal involvement for a person that has actually done this job for years and years can have tangible, gradual but tangible short-term impact. When it comes to overrating, I would go a bit with on a hot take now and say a long-term strategy. Yes, it's important. Yes, looking at macro trends is important. Yes, implementing AI will change a lot of things. None of these things will, however, materialize if the next 2 quarters go down the drain. Right. So strategy, very important, grossly overrated in the first 6 months.
All right. And then, so let's stay on the same topic for the next question then. As you're talking to the next potential employer or client, what's a red flag and what's a green flag? It's like, wow, these guys get it, or this would be a good match for me, or these people are nowhere near ready. They should not be looking at a CRO role yet at all. Like, what's one red flag and one green flag as you're trying to assess the compatibility of a prospect for you? George.
Oh, okay. I would change the order. So let's start with a positive. So a green flag would be discussing what is how they see the assignment. What is that person coming in to do? Is it strategic insight? Is it network? Is it coaching managers? Understanding the level of competence that already exists in the organization? Essentially starting from a problem, not starting from a solution and trying to address the problem. So we need a CRO because XYZ is a green flag. A red flag is throwing a lot of buzzwords and abbreviations around the role. I want somebody to come in and fix AI adoption rates. I want somebody to come in and fix ARR conversion from stage to stage. Yes, these are important topics, but they are usually symptoms of a larger issue. So a red flag is when you're trying to hire a role to potentially address certain symptoms, but there is no bigger picture strategy on what this role is supposed to do.
Gotcha. All right, that's good. And Doug, how about you? When you're talking to the next potential client or next potential employer, like what's a red flag and what's a green flag when you're talking to them?
Sure. So yeah, talking to a potential employer, I think for me it is the green flag would be at an early stage, so C to A to B round. Have they got a clear IC? They have a founder that's ready to take a step back, genuinely ready to go to the next level, and the founder needs to get away from founder-led sales and wants to grow a team. Are they prepared to pay for that? Because they might have been at a C round where they couldn't afford to pay for the right sort of talent. So are they ready to pay for that talent and go to the next level? Do they have cross-functional alignment as well? That's really important. So those would be the green flags. The red flags to me is where in the commercial organization, there's a lot of people coming and going. Maybe you're the second or third CRO coming in, or you look at the sales team and you kind of look at the tenure of the sales team, and it's changing all the time, right? And it's always because the previous person wasn't that great. It's a bit like you sort of see, if you have a dent in your car, if someone sort of scratches you in the car park, that person's at fault. But suddenly when you find you've got 5 scratches on your car, it might not be the other person, it might be you. And it's the same with companies, right? That suddenly you see that there might be something epidemic in the company that is holding them back, and they're making short-term decisions. Their onboarding's not right. They're not. So green flag for me would be a lot of churn with the people. Is the founder involved in every single decision? That would be a challenge because there's no delegation. And those are the sort of things I would be looking for. And are they a coachable team as well? Are they ready to do that next step?
All right. So it's been a long and hectic and filled day for both of you guys in this hypothetical CRO day. So you're leaving the convention. You're going to go get in the elevator and take the elevator down, get into your cars, and go home. So it turns out you're both in the same elevator at the same time, and you don't know each other. And so just we'll start with Doug, and then we'll give George the same prompt. But so Doug, here's the prompt. You look over and you say, okay. You look at George and say, hey, we haven't met. The only thing I know about you is that you're another CRO. Since you're another CRO, let me ask you something. And then you can ask George whatever question you would ask a stranger who might give you a revealing answer.
Okay. Well, that's a great question. So what I asked George, I'm in the list. I'm in the lift with him. So I would say, George, what's been for you the most rewarding engagement you've had in your career?
Do I?
Mm-hmm.
I think the most rewarding engagement that I had in my career is when I worked at telemarketing. In the start of my career in sales, I think it was one of the biggest schools, so to speak, when it comes to learning the trade. If I were to pick one.
All right. And then, George, you can ask Doug any other question you would ask a stranger CRO. If you've been experiencing something and you're wondering if everyone experiences this, or is it different somewhere else, or what kind of question would you ask?
Yeah, currently, actually, what I would ask is what I actually ask a lot of my network, which is, what is your opinion on BDR teams versus full cycle AE outbound motions?
So what's with BDR as opposed to someone who does the whole life cycle?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a trend, just to elaborate the question a bit, there is a trend where a lot of both mid-segment and large SaaS companies are basically cutting their BDR teams in favor of full cycle AE groups instead. The claim is that the conversions and the efficiency metrics are a lot better because of seniority. What's your take?
So, ironically, I'm old enough to have grey hair, where in the early days, everybody did full cycle, right? So, when I was a salesperson, I didn't have a BDR, or didn't have anything. I had a phone and a blank bit of paper to start with, and so that's the world I kind of was grown up in. But I see huge benefits with BDRs, and I think the first thing I'd ask is, what's the average order value? If it's an SMB level, then it might be appropriate to have full cycle. If it's an enterprise level, then I'm a huge fan of BDRs. I think they do an amazing job, and I think someone who's focused on just doing those things and getting those right metrics, they're close to the sales team. One thing I always make sure we do is when a sales team win a transaction, which might be 6 months after the original BDR found the lead, it's absolutely critical that sales team always give huge credit to that BDR, because that BDR might have spent 7 months knocking on the door, getting into that customer and getting that lead, and the sales team they've done the good stuff at the end. But for me, the value of that team is still critical in the right type of sale.
All right. Well, guys, this has been fantastic, and it's time to wind down. Thanks so much for being here. Doug, who should be reaching out to you? Who specifically should be reaching out to you today, and what's the best way to get to you?
Sure. Best way is to get through LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. And who should be reaching out is founders in seed or A and B round companies that are either looking to, as a founder, step back, or they're looking to scale their team. I'm typically scaling teams from small teams to very large teams, where you might have one absolute rock star salesperson or a small number of sellers, and you're trying to expand that to have 10, 20 sales, marketing. It's not just a people thing, obviously, from a revenue point of view, and then getting to the next round. So I work with founders and teams that want to expand and grow from those early tactics to building a structured team that will want to expand to the next level and get to the next funding round, or if it's not funding, get to the next growth area.
All right. And George, how about you? Who should be contacting you these days, and what's the best way to get to you?
The best way is always LinkedIn. Who should be reaching out? I would say sales and marketing leaders in virtually whatever industry. My experience comes from both B2B SaaS and enterprise organizations. I very much like having interesting conversations about sales and marketing. If people are particularly interested in go-to-market motions or ABM, that would make my day even brighter. But otherwise, general sales and marketing go-to-market topics are always very welcome, including advice, like if anyone wants to get tips or along those lines. No pit slaps, I would ask kindly.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for being here. This has been fantastic. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, George. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. See you guys.